Hi, this is Randall Schwartz, host of Floss Weekly. This week, Jonathan Bennett joins me. We're going to be talking about ScreenStudio, a way for you to broadcast your desktop and record it for later. You're not going to want to miss this, so stay tuned.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Floss Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Floss Weekly with Randall Schwartz and Jonathan Bennett. Episode 430, recorded April 19th, 2017. ScreenStudio. This episode of Floss Weekly is brought to you by Bitbucket from Atlassian. Bitbucket is the Git solution for professional teams. Start your free account today at bitbucket.org/forthecode. It's time for Floss Weekly, the show about free, libre, open source software. I am your host, Randall Schwartz, Merlin at Stonehenge.com, bringing you each week the movers, the shakers, the big projects, the little projects, projects you may be using every day and not aware of it, projects you may want to download right after this show and play with. I bet today it's going to be one of these, maybe one of those too. Joining me today is Jonathan Bennett. Jonathan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Randall. Good to be here once again.
Great. And where are we speaking to you? No, that's backwards. Where are you speaking to us from?
I am speaking from the home office, corporate headquarters, Lawton, Oklahoma.
Very cool, very cool. I'll be flying over that in a few weeks. I'll wave at you as I sort of cover that area, but it's one of what I like to call the flyover states, but you probably get called that occasionally as well. And I am speaking to you. If you notice a different background once again, I'm in my home in Beaverton, Oregon, and very happy to be sleeping in my own bed for a little while until we start the convention series that's coming up very soon. Anyway, so we have an interesting guest on today. Not like we don't always have an interesting guest on, but today's no exception to that rule. We have joining us in just a few minutes will be Patrick Ballou, who has been on the show before. He was on the show way back in 2010, talking about a project that he called at that time Webcam Studio. Well, he contacted me recently and said, you know, I've got a totally different project that's very similar called, I've lost it already. It's ScreenStudio. There we go. Boy, I tell you, I'm not quite awake yet. I didn't get a good night's sleep last night, and it's already showing. ScreenStudio, which has a bunch of different features, and one of the first things I'm going to have him describe is how is it different from Webcam Studio. But basically, it's going to let you record your desktop, any one or more webcams, have title overlays, text, and so on. And the purpose of this is either to publish something on YouTube as after video, or to even live stream at things like YouTube live streaming and Twitch and a bunch of other live stream things. UStream and UStream. We all stream for live stream, yes. And it looks pretty good. It looks like it's well done. It's actually very portable. Apparently, it was written in Java, so it works on all platforms these days, including OS X and oops, sorry, I'm supposed to call that Mac OS now, aren't I? Mac OS and of course Linux and Windows. What do you know about this so far, Jonathan?
Well, I've used some similar things in the past. I've done some work with OBS Studio and things like that. I do remember that one of the difficult things, what can be difficult at least, is doing screen capture for a demo or tutorial. I've got a couple of YouTube videos up with stuff like that, and it did take a while to go through and find, on whatever platform you're using, the one program or the two programs that you can string together to actually get a decent screen capture. So I'm very interested to hear about how he does it and what the results are. So looking forward to hearing from him.
Yeah, and I use a commercial application called ScreenFlow for my podcasting and stuff like that when I want to record my performance somewhere with a webcam, so I can cut myself into the corner. And I'm looking to see how this would compare to that as well. So lots of questions to ask, but before we do that, we do have a very important announcement, because this episode of Floss Weekly is brought to you by Bitbucket. Let's be honest, your code is your world. You create it, tweak it, and lovingly obsess over it every day. So picking the right repository management tool is super important. Only the best for your code, right? That's why the team at Atlassian created Bitbucket. Bitbucket is the Git solution for professional teams. It helps over 5 million developers build with a purpose. Bitbucket gives teams of all sizes free private repositories with state-of-the-art features. The world's best pull request algorithm. Pull requests facilitate code reviews. You collaborate right in the code with inline comments, threaded conversations, and mentions. With built-in continuous delivery. Branch permissions help prevent errors by controlling the actions users can perform. You can get granular permissions at the project, repository, or even branch level. Integrations with your favorite tools like Docker, AWS, and Azure. Because Bitbucket comes from Atlassian, it offers the best Jira integration available, giving your team everything you can to take your code from concept to customer. More than 900,000 teams love Bitbucket. It's used by companies like Ford, PayPal, Starbucks, and Pandora. It's the only collaborative Git solution that massively scales. Bitbucket is for the code that takes us to Mars, decodes the human genome, or drives your next car. Visit bitbucket.org/forthecode to start your free account. That's bitbucket.org/forthecode. Try Bitbucket today. What will your code do? And we thank Bitbucket for their support of Floss Weekly. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest. Patrick Pelot, welcome back to the show.
Hi, Randall. Hi, Jonathan. It's been a while, 7 years since the last time.
Yeah, and where are you speaking to us from?
I'm currently in Trois-Rivières. That's halfway between Montreal City and Quebec City in Canada.
Oh, okay. Let me wave in your general
head
direction.
office.
It's over there somewhere. Yes. Cool. All right. So, great. So, give us the 30,000-foot view. What problem does... I keep losing it on the screen because now it's something different from the last time you were on. ScreenStudio. What problem does ScreenStudio solve, and how well did I describe it?
At the time, I was trying to record my desktop as I would like anybody else. I have an old computer and I have an old laptop, and trying to work with currently existing solutions to record a desktop wasn't really working, wasn't really effective. So I had to rely back on the old ffmpeg from the command line to record a desktop, which was working really great. But at some point, I said, okay, let's make an interface for that, so it would be easier just instead of using a script from the console. And that's how ScreenStudio got to be created. And once I was done with that interface, which I called ScreenStudio because previously I made Webcam Studio, then I published that on the web, and everything started there 3 years ago, exactly today.
Oh yes, happy birthday on that. I was just we were just discussing that in the email a few days ago. Well, so now I'm confused. So Webcam Studio did a lot of that. So what's ScreenStudio, and how is it different?
Webcam Studio, as its name says, was mainly oriented to using the webcam, and it was relying on the eStreamer platform, which changed a lot over the time. So I got to some point that I couldn't maintain Webcam Studio as the needs change since I created Webcam Studio. If I go back in 2012, I was to a point that there were many issues with Webcam Studio, and people were not broadcasting their webcam anymore. They were broadcasting their desktop, and Webcam Studio couldn't really handle that properly. So I took the big decision in 2012 to stop working on Studio, took a short break, and in 2014, there we go again, started a new project called, this time, ScreenStudio, meant to record the screen even on low-spec computers so it would work and create screencast of whatever you want to show.
And so when you say record the screen, why would I want to do that? I already know the answer to this, but why tell our audience why you'd want to record the screen.
At the time, what I wanted to do was to create some short tutorial about Ubuntu. So I was wanting to let's see how to use Evolution for your emails, and how do you configure your iPhone and Ubuntu to make them talk together, stuff like that. I love to produce some short video clips, short tutorials showing how to do this. So basically, it was meant to create short recordings, but eventually streaming got involved with Twitch, and you have also not UStream but YouTube, where you can live stream. So I integrated that into ScreenStudio, and I was able to easily screencast and broadcast my desktop with webcam overlay, and a lot of stuff have been added since I created ScreenStudio. But basically, I want to show how to do. I play a game, and I can stream my gaming on Ubuntu and other Linux distribution also.
And so, what is it like to interact with this? So you obviously downloading it, and then you just start running it. What are you seeing when you're acting on ScreenStudio?
Basically, you download the binary archive, uncompress it on your computer, and basically on Ubuntu, everything should be there. There are a few requirements, Java, for instance, and ffmpeg that comes in with Ubuntu. On Windows, because it's also compatible with Windows, everything is included beside the Java runtime, and also on OS X, the same thing. I'm still struggling with OS X, but basically that's the same process. So you start ScreenStudio, add your screen, the current version does support multiple video sources, so add your sources and start recording or streaming whatever you want to do.
Okay, and when you say record the screen, is it recording everything, including like the menu bar and stuff?
If you want to, or just capture an area of your desktop, it's quite flexible. So if record your Skype conversation, so you just capture the area where the other person is located on your screen, or it's basically like you choose whatever you want to show to the users.
And does it allow you to, say, easily select just a window that would actually track it even as you make that larger and smaller?
I did that in ScreenStudio 2, where I was tracking the location of the mouse on the display. That's something I need to put back in ScreenStudio 3, but I'm not kind of dedicated to a window. It's much more of select the proper area and make sure that your window doesn't move from there. So it's something I'm thinking of, but right now I haven't included that kind of option in ScreenStudio.
Hey, wanted to ask you a couple of questions myself. So do you have other people working with you on this, or is it just kind of a one-man show at this point?
I'm a lone ranger right now. Like, I do everything by myself. It's a small project. I just have fun with it. It's a big experiment, but I'm trying to make it useful and easy to use. I'm currently the only one working on the source code. I started translating into other languages lately, so a few people have helped me to update the resource file for the languages. And a few people have also a few icons, a few widgets and images to be included. Lately, I've included a frame that shows around the border of your recording, which make it like really nice instead of just showing the plain desktop. But basically,
sure.
I'll work alone on that.
Okay. How is this different from something like OBS, or the Open Broadcast Studio? What's the differentiation from that?
Basically, it's less powerful but easier to use. OBS is a great software, but at the time, 3 years ago, I was trying to run OBS on my computer. It wasn't working. I was under Ubuntu, still is, and it was like there were stability issues. So kind of, okay, doesn't work. I'm going to create my own then. And right now, between OBS and ScreenStudio is OBS is for the professionals. ScreenStudio is for your average user who wants to just make a quick recording, but still have a nice looking display on your streaming or your recordings.
Huh. Very interesting. So it's kind of an intentional niche that you're filling there with the little bit more simpler usage.
Yeah, basically, the main motto of ScreenStudio is streaming made easy. So I started on that phrase and always try to keep things simple, so I don't have to play around with the bit rates and the encoding, and just like everything wrapped up, so it's easy to use.
Now, I've done a little bit of streaming before, and I've made the comment that streaming is much harder. It's a hard problem. There's lots of hair to it. Have you found in working with this, especially with things like ffmpeg, that it's just on your end, on the coding end, it's fiddly to get everything right. Is my understanding right? Is streaming a very hairy problem?
It's something that is hard to handle properly because it always depends on your computer. Is it fast enough? Your bandwidth, is it big enough? And you have all those settings that you need to put in there, and you have to know about them. So when I started this, I simply went to YouTube, to Twitch, Hitbox also, and looked at their their proper settings. They are quite similar from one service to the other. So I said, okay, that's how they want the stream to be encoded. So I just kind of put everything in there, so you don't have to figure out what to do. So basically, the only thing you need to choose is your video bitrate, your audio bitrate for the quality, and the preset, which means that you'll use more compression but use more of your computer capacity. So if you have a low-spec computer like I have, I just use like less compression, but the quality is there. So basically, it's like the less you have to configure, the better it is.
So one of the things that we have as part of Twit using Skype, we have struggled quite a bit in the last few weeks with audio and video sync. Randall in particular, we'll see his lips move, and then a second or two later he'll say something, and that doesn't work out very well for trying to do live video. How do you handle that? How do you solve the problem of keeping audio and video in sync?
Basically magic. No, there was a lot of trial and errors just to figure that one out. You have to understand how a video is encoded and how ffmpeg does handle the audio and video sync. So I spent many hours just trying to figure out the proper way to make it work, and finally I found a way to do it. And it's a matter of being really fast, making sure, since it's a in real time when you're recording or streaming, so you have to make sure that your audio and video are handled properly and the encoding is not taking too much of your computer. And it's a matter of being synced like to the milliseconds, and actually less than that. And if you do it right and you have the proper timing, you'll get a perfect audio and video sync.
Interesting. So it comes down to how real time your computer can be.
Yeah.
We do have a question. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. The trick is, I found that like a few months ago. Try not to do everything in different threads, in different process. Try to do everything in one shot. Capture the display, the record, the video source, whatever it is, capture it, and then mix it, and then send it to ffmpeg. And just don't do it like in parallel process, like one shot. But make sure that you do it fast enough so you won't lag while recording. It's quite. You have to look at the source code to figure it out.
That's true for a lot of things. So in trying to use this, it would be important to have a processor that can do single threading very quickly as opposed to multi-thread processing.
Yeah, because whatever happens on the other processors, like if you're playing, it doesn't matter if you have a lot of cores in your CPU. You just need to have at least 2 cores that are really fast, and you'll get great results. Saying that, currently I do all my development on an old MacBook, 2009 MacBook, which is good but not really fast. But anyway, I'm able to create recordings at 10 frames per second, full screen, full HD, full quality. I cannot do 30 frames per second. The machine doesn't handle it, but it's working. I can create screencasts anyway. I just able to play a full 3D game while recording because the machine will die.
So that actually brings up an interesting follow-up for that, which is you're trying to use this to play a game, which is usually pretty intense on most machines. at the same time, you're trying to capture the game. How do you balance the power in that sense to make sure that both actually happen?
What I'm trying to do is to take as less as possible resources from the computer. So it's tweaked to make sure that actually everything revolves around ffmpeg. I'm going to say it again. French is trying to get out. If ffmpeg can do it on its own, then I'm trying to interact with ffmpeg, say, okay, you can do it, you can do it. And I'm going to push you more video and more images at the same time, and you should be able to handle it. So basically, it's a matter of the binary ffmpeg you have on your computer able to cope with your computer and your games if you're actually streaming a game.
And so this this recording, I saw a couple of your demo videos so I could see what was going on. You have to set a frames per second, and I saw the number 10. Is that as fast as it can go? Or if you have better CPU, can you go full speed?
You can go full speed. I've had users going 30 frames per second. It's a matter of my laptop. It's crappy. It's old. It's probably it will die this year, but it still works. So I'm still using it, and it's kind of a benchmark. Make sure, okay, I have a lower frame rate when I do that on this computer, but also it ensures that the best process possible to make a perfect recording. So I know I need to lower my frame rate, but if I reduce the size of the capture, then I can increase the frame rate and so on. So with maybe a current computer, current machine, I could go 30 frames per second without any issue like that with that.
We have a live chat room that we do when we tape this show, which for those of you that are actually watching live stream, you realize if you look out at your calendar, today is Wednesday instead of Tuesday. It's because we got bumped yesterday to here. Anyway, that's also why you listening to me on the feeds didn't get a show yesterday, because hey, we're taping it today. Tinker Toy Tech, who's a frequent customer in the chat rooms, asked a couple of questions, which I'll pass along to you. Can it switch between screen transmit and webcam? And can it mix the two?
The current build available on the web is just able to hide or show a video source remotely with, I can use my iPhone. I have an iPhone, does work on Android also. I can remote access ScreenStudio and enable disable video source. The current version in development, the one that is currently on my computer on GitHub, does support views. I called it like that, meaning that I have different layouts. So one could show the desktop, one could show the webcam, another one could show the webcam and the desktop. So I'm kind of going back to Webcam Studio in a way, not trying to mention it. But basically the current build, the current version I'm working on will be should be released next week, maybe, if I have time, but pretty soon.
And yeah, I saw in the demo video that you were using your phone to slide things in and out or turn things on and off. Did you release something to the iOS store for that, or how are you doing that?
It's quite easy, actually. It's a web application. So I've built into ScreenStudio a mini web server, like nothing fancy, but just able to serve an HTML page that does kind of specific requests. So there's no need to go to the App Store. Just start ScreenStudio, watch the current IP address or current name of your machine, and connect to that with the browser of your smartphone, Android, or even another computer. And then you have a remote access to ScreenStudio to play around with your sources. The current version I'm working on with different views, you'll be able to change the views using your smart device or the other computer through your web browser.
That's actually pretty clever. Is this something you're thinking about eventually productizing or providing support for commercially?
I don't think so. I want to keep it like a fun project. I already have a job. I have a large family, many kids. There's not much time to spend on other projects. So ScreenStudio for me to unwind. Late in the evening, I'm going to spend an hour. Okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, let's try that. I'm going to add new features and basically like just keeping it fun, as I like to work on stuff with video and streaming and anything related to that. And I always start doing it on Ubuntu, but this time I moved on also on Windows. So it's kind of a personal challenge that I like to do.
Cool, cool. That's admirable. Actually, it's nice to have a sort of a hobby project then that you can share with the world and let them accomplish their tasks as well. Actually, Tinker Toy Tech asks in the chat room, I don't know if he's serious. He says, "Does he want to buy a desktop?" So I don't know if that means he's offering something for sale to you or not. But anyway, that's how our chat room rolls sometimes.
Eventually, I may sell T-shirts with the logo of ScreenStudio. That would be cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. It looked like your older logo looked a lot like Spotify.
I don't never realized that. I kind of created the old logo just thinking, oh, okay, wireless, Wi-Fi, look at the icons on my stuff. Okay, let's make 3 bars. And that should look like something to broadcast. Until one of the users said to me, hey, it looks like the Spotify icon. Oh, I won't say it, but like, yeah, they really look alike. So I went back to my drawing board, opened a GIMP, and designed a new logo. And actually, I like the new one better than the old one.
Yeah, the new one actually says a little bit. It's a screen. It's a screen with a cast or whatever, I guess, right? So that is much nicer. Tinker Toy Tech also asks from the chat room, can it both record to disk and also stream at the same time?
I think it could do it. I tried it a while ago, but you need a really fast computer because you double encode. You need to encode for the streaming, and you also need to encode for the local hard drive if you want to keep a copy. It would work with a fast computer, but since I cannot really test it, I haven't made that available. But technically, it would be possible.
Yeah, and actually, Reverb Mike in the chat room says, "I'd buy that shirt." So you got to start selling shirts. There are various services on this thing. I think they call the internet that you can sell. You can put your logo on and let your user community to know and make a few dollars. Take up for all your wonderful contribution there. Speaking of that, what's your user base size like? Do you know how many downloads you've had? And do they chat back at you? Do they ask you for features?
I don't know how many downloads I have. I haven't checked lately. I know I have a few users here and there. The current community on the G+ social network, I have like 325 fans there. I have like 81s on Facebook page, which doesn't really work. I don't know why. And I have a few followers also on Twitter. But basically, I would say the community is really, really small compared to what I had with the Webcam Studio, which was counting in thousands and thousands. But I've been quiet also at the same time. I just want to do like my own stuff, make it slow, make sure it works, baby steps. Oh.
Well, you know,
that does advertising once in a while, but
yeah. Well, it does sound like you might have a good 50 T-shirts sold somewhere in there. So definitely look into that. I think Tinker Toy Tech's trying to say
selling some T-shirts.
Yeah, he said the word Teespring, which I haven't heard of yet, but I don't think we should be promoting anything new or any particular service. Probably not a good idea unless they're actually paying us for an ad. Anyway, Jonathan says he has a couple questions, so why don't we go over to Jonathan for a second?
Flawless transition.
Nice. Yes.
Sure. So it seems like one of the things that this would be useful for is someone that wants to play a game like, well, I guess I won't mention any specific games, but, some MMO or something like that online and then be able to stream it to Twitch. So does your software support something like, you know, you've got your game full screen, and then you've got the head down in the corner of the person that's playing it. Do you do the green screen and all that stuff?
I'm not doing the green screen, but I'm able to overlay several sources. So you can have your main display, put the webcam at the top corner or over your display, whatever, where you want to put it. You can have images overlaid also at the same time, and text. I call them labels, where you can put strings, and there are a few like keywords that I'm supporting, like the tag current time, so you can show what is the current time when doing that streaming or that recording. I can show it does show the content of a file, so you could support like updating a file, and it would reflect inside ScreenStudio. So I'm currently supporting the desktop, webcams, text, label, basic HTML text, and images and animated GIFs also are supported. I've added lately the frames, which actually is just an image, but specifically designed to be put around the edges of your recordings. And videos or live streaming could be coming in the next few months, but that's not something I like. I'm kind of thinking, yeah, is it really useful when I'm streaming to show a video? I don't know, but that's something I need like on the side for now.
So if someone had an HDMI capture card, could they use that as the primary video source instead of just their desktop?
I don't think so, unless the computer would support it. I really don't know. Basically, webcams are under Ubuntu are viewed as video devices. So if you have an input for HDMI, it would be detected as a video input, then it would work, but never tried it.
Okay. All right. And then I wanted to ask you one last thing from me at least. Was there any interesting or particularly annoying issues that you ran into in trying to support all three of the major desktops, so Windows, Linux, and Mac?
I would say the audio and video synchronization. It would work under Ubuntu, then I would go under Windows, and it would not work. Like, I don't know why. And then go back under OS X, and there it would not work, or the lag would be in different direction. Like video would be ahead of the sound, and just finding the perfect recipe on all platforms where audio and video are in sync. That was the biggest challenge, I would say.
And is anybody, obviously since you do have a user base for this now, what's been the most unusual thing that people have made with this that you've gotten to see?
I would say nothing fancy there. People are recording their desktop or streaming their games. I've had a few requests, like would want to be able to show videos like in a playlist, but nothing unusual, I would say. In general, when people are using ScreenStudio, they're doing a screencast about Ubuntu, showing how to install this or how to use that. And maybe I'm kind of the biggest user of ScreenStudio because I created it, and showing how to do things.
Okay, and has anybody or have you ever done sort of a live instructional thing with this? And I was thinking of that when you asked, well, I don't know who'd want to put video on here, because it would be, you might want to, be hosting a live training and then show video as part of the operation.
You can do it streaming over RTMP. I also support HTTP live stream, which is quite new. But I'm kind of lost. What was the question first? Kind of forgot.
Have you seen anybody? Have you seen anybody live stream with this as a training operation? As to actually have like a classroom where everybody rendezvous and maybe has a back chat room to ask questions, things like that.
I have one user that I don't know much about, does use ScreenStudio to stream live training sessions. I think it's in Kansas, something like that. I would need to go back to my mails, and he did ask me a few questions and does use ScreenStudio as a mean to display stuff to their group classes, something like that. But I remember that it's Kansas in the name. As I said, I don't have many users right now. I've always kept a low profile in a way, but it could be used for training sessions.
Okay, cool. And what license is this under?
It's GPL v3. That's the one I know, so that's the one I used. There's a few LGPL, I think. I think I have one library that is LGPL, but an ffmpeg, which is, I think, GPL v3. So it's kind of regular stuff. It's open to everyone, and if you want to fork the project, make your own, go ahead. I'm going to be happy.
Cool. Oh, cool. And what language is it in?
The main interface is built in Java. Again, that's what I like. That's what I know. And ffmpeg is, I'm simply using the binary, so I don't care about compiling, or I just use whatever is available. And you have Java, and that's about it. Quite simple. There are not much dependencies on the system. It's kind of basically drag and drop the application, make and run it, and it should work.
Cool. And how many lines of code? Is it quite a few?
I don't know. I would say around 5,000. It's not that much. It's just a GUI talking to ffmpeg.
Okay. And so you haven't really had anybody cooperate in terms of being able to add more. You haven't had any code submissions, right? It's all just been people drawing icons and things like that.
I've had one.
Okay.
A few weeks ago. I've had one.
There you go.
Like, one of the users sent me something to patch ScreenStudio with, and I said, "Oh, cool." But that's the only one. Like, but I don't complain. It's kind of, yeah. It's something I just have fun with it. And if people want to be involved, they just need to reach me over Twitter or on GitHub. They can find ScreenStudio there. But basically, right now, my user base is probably just users that want to record their desktop and they don't know much about coding and how to do that.
Hey, Jonathan, do you have any more questions before we let him go?
Sure, there was one that came to mind. How do you get ffmpeg onto the machine that you're installing on? Is it bundled in the jar? How does that work?
For Ubuntu, it's in the requirement to install it because it's already available for the system. For Windows and OS X, it's bundled not in the jar but with the jar. It's a zip file. No, it's tar.gz file. Anyway, it's an archive, and there's a subfolder in there with the proper binary for OS X, and for Windows that I know it works. It's a static build. And read everywhere, okay, I could use that. It's basically like that. I've tried the same thing for Ubuntu, but there are too many dependencies when you're going static. So I'm simply asking, well, install Java, install ffmpeg, and it should be good.
So you is that Windows build 64, probably 32-bit to get the most compatibility out of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm using, I think, the 32-bit version. I just don't remember the version. I would have to look. But it's made to work almost everywhere.
How old of a Windows version can you use? For a project I work on, I've gotten some requests to go back to Windows XP, and that's just, it doesn't work for us. Do you go back to XP?
I don't know. I don't have any XP left where I can try it. Tried it on Windows 10 and Windows 7, so I can assure it works on Windows 7. Before that, no, never tried it or never had a user reporting it would work under Vista or Windows XP. But technically, it should work.
Good to know. Randall, I think it's your turn again. We've just been doing great on the handoffs today.
Yeah, it's been a little rough, and the back chat channel that we use just went down, so we're basically having to do this live over the air. Yeah, that's been part of the problem for the last 5 minutes or so. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Well, actually, we're almost out of time, so I just want to ask a few more questions. One is there anything we didn't ask that you wanted to make sure our audience is aware of?
I would say ScreenStudio was meant to be fun to use, to be easy to use. So grab your own copy, and if you have any suggestions, I really have a hard time with that word. Just go over Twitter, reach me, and comment. Or I'm also posting on YouTube. Lately, mostly on vid.me, which is kind of the alternate for YouTube. And it's a matter of the more the merrier. So get on and try. Come join me, and we'll have fun.
Cool. Your English is much better than my French, so I'm glad that you're speaking in English. This would be a difficult show for me to even start with. Two last questions that I ask all of my guests over time, and you probably answered these 7 years ago, or maybe you didn't. What's your favorite scripting language?
I would say Java. That's
Java's a scripting language?
Also VB.NET. I do like VB.NET also, but Java is kind of personal thing.
Can you do a shebang line in Unix with Java?
How do you say that?
Shebang, the pound bang and then the name of the interpreter. Can you do that with Java?
I really don't. Asking. I don't know what is shebang. Maybe that's my English, or never heard of that. I can't.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine then. And what's your favorite? What's the other one? Editor, text editor. What do you use for editing all day?
I'm using NetBeans at home and at work, of course, where we're using .NET. So I use Visual Studio, but at home I tend to be everything in NetBeans. Kind of easy, drag and drop, just works. I'm happy with that.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show today and updating us with your latest hobby activity. And I'm sure that a lot more people will be using it now that they're aware that it's out there. Well, actually, before I let you go, is there any particular skills that you'd like somebody to bring to you to help you out with any particular gnarly parts of the programming?
Maybe another programmer would be great to help me out with some tweaking, and designers. I'm not really good at creating icons and stuff like that, so maybe a designer would be great, or to create a great looking website, something like that. I created an HTML page, does work, but it's not really great.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on the show today, Patrick.
Thank you very much.
All right. That was Patrick Ballou talking to us about ScreenStudio. What do you think, Jonathan?
It's too bad that we were plagued with some technical difficulties today. That was a very interesting interview. I think if we could have gotten our stuff together a little better, we could have done better. But that's all right. He was. It was interesting to talk to him. It's interesting that he's found this niche of similar to OBS, but trying to be simpler, and so I guess not quite as flexible, but much easier to get started. And it's an interesting thing that people are doing now, where they are live streaming their desktop for various reasons, and it's kind of one of the emerging things of the web. And it's good to see that there's some open source projects out there. They're trying to hit that and doing it very well, it seems. So it was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's really fascinating. I remember I was doing some stuff with UStream Broadcaster when I was doing some live karaoke sessions, until somebody pointed out that even though there was a performance copyright available to me while I was singing in the karaoke room, I didn't have the same copyright rights on the internet then, and so I couldn't just sing my way and rebroadcast it. It's not cool, and I do respect copyright as often as I can. That doesn't mean a thing. Anyway, so this is great that this is available for people who want to do this, and it looks like it's and I like that it's cross-platform. I like the amount of work that Patrick's put into it. It looks like a really good thing. So, any further words before I read off the upcoming guests?
All of these projects that we've been interviewing are trying to forcibly get me past my Java phobia. I'm not sure what I think about that, but there's probably no stopping it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't really care to learn Java. I tried to learn it a while back, and it just wasn't anything I wanted to waste too much time with. I'd rather put that same amount of time into Dart, which can do pretty much everything Java would want to do for me, and is strongly typed and works with Visual Studio now, and a few other really cool technologies. But that's all. Okay. Anyway, so let's talk about the upcoming guests. Next week we have next week on a Tuesday. We're back on a Tuesday. I'm coming down on a Tuesday. Right. Anyway. And now I'm not a good rap singer, so I'm just going to stop there. Stacky is coming up next Tuesday. That's a bare metal provisioning tool from the creators of Rocks. The following week was going to be FreeNAS Corral. Well, if you've been watching the news lately, you see that Corral is no more. So it won't be the beneficial dictator for life for FreeNAS Corral. He won't be on the show. We're providing a substitute guest, though, and we will be talking about FreeNAS. And actually, we're going to have Aaron Newcomb be hosting that show. I'm still looking for a co-host for that show because I will be that week at Red Hat Summit in Boston. So I won't be available on that show, but Aaron's a big storage guy, so FreeNAS is one of his favorite things to learn about. The following week, I will be at OSCON, and we do actually have a guest for that show already, and I can disclose it now. It's OpenHub, which allows you to discover, track, and compare open source and see how popular various open source projects actually are. So that's going to be fun to talk to those guys. And they have an announcement apparently that they're going to be we're going to get the scoop on this show because they're going to announce it at OSCON, and we're going to go ahead and be the very first vehicle for them to talk about that. Following that, we have Kubernetes. We're going to get an update on that. We talked to them back in August 2015, but there's been a lot of other things happening with them. It's an orchestration system for cloud instances of Docker. NPM, if you've heard of Node.js, you know about the Node.js package manager. NPM is, we're going to have some representatives from that talk about that. Also, just added to the schedule is the Etsy. So the Etsy, the people that have the website where you can sell all sorts of things that are handmade, stuff like that, they have a project called Divertsy, which allows you to collect information about the things that are going to waste so that you can better go green. So they've actually hit 100% green in a couple of their locations, and they want to make sure everybody else can too. So they're providing not only the open source software to tie in with everything that you do, but they're even providing the servers. So you don't even have to host this thing. Etsy is going to be doing that for you. So we really appreciate them for doing that, and they'll be coming in and talking about that. You'll find out about all those guests and more at the homepage for this show, twit.tv/floss. If you go there, you'll find our schedule. You'll also find the upcoming schedule. Look at the link that says here's what's coming up in the future. And if there's anybody that I'm not already talking to that you want to get on this show, just like today's guest, brought to me by Jonathan Bennett, basically contact the project leader or community coordinator and have them email me, merlin@stonehenge.com. My address there is on the homepage of this show, twit.tv/floss. We're still, I've got a few more slots left in the end of Q2, I think, and maybe starting to open up Q3 pretty quick. We have a live stream that's normally on Tuesdays at live.twit.tv at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time when we tape the show. And we got a few questions from the chat room today. Thanks, Tinker Toy Tech and the others for providing your particular questions. Let's see, you follow us at Floss Weekly on Google+, or at Floss Weekly on Twitter. You can follow me at Randall L. Schwartz on Google+, or MERLYN Merlin on Twitter. And again, I'm going to be at Red Hat Summit and also at OSCON. And so if you're at either of those, please come up and say hi. And if you have guests that you want me to interview live, I can go do that too. I'll always carry on my iPhone. I can always record something, a brief announcement or something. I'll also be at YAPC, yet another Perl conference. It's going to be in the D.C. area, so just making my final travel plans for that. I just got invited to go to the allthingsopen.org conference, which is very fascinating. It's going to be in the Research Triangle, first time I've ever been there. So I'm doing that, just 2-day conference there. They invited me to be able to find some new guests there, which is really nice. And then in September, DragonCon. That's my big indulgence conference where I'm going to be on the EFF track and hopefully the podcasting track, and have 3 or 4 things to speak about, and also bump into really cool stars of science fiction, fantasy, all sorts of things, gaming, all sorts of fun stuff. Anyway, that's all I'm plugging for today. Jonathan, what do you want to plug?
Just a brief correction. I don't believe I brought the guest for today in. I do have one that I'm working with, trying to wrestle them in, but not today's. The only other thing I'll say, no problem. The only other thing I'll say is that I am JP Bennett. Should be down right there. JP_Bennett on Twitter. Follow me there, and I will tweet about random things, sometimes open source, occasionally political, but I try to keep that out of there pretty much, but it should always be fun. And look forward to next time.
Oh, and And also, I was yeah, great. And I got whispered in the ear earlier, and I forgot about it when we had that whole crash of the chat system. But what we mentioned earlier, Teespring is spelled T-E-E, two E's, Spring, S-P-R-I-N-G. And I hope it's .com, but /twit there will get you to the merchandise for this very network. So go check that out. I'm sure there's a link to that also from Twit's homepage as well. So anyway, that was whispered in my ear earlier, and I forgot to say it because, again, that all went away. That window went entirely away. Oh, and look, if you're walking to the video, you can see some of the gear actually come up. That is nice, yes. Thank you, secret behind-the-scenes John guy, to be able to do that for us. Anyway, the Twit merch store. Check it out. Check it out, definitely. And we'll see you all again next week on Floss Weekly.